Hey, this is Nina Bawal, and thank you for making it through to the 6th in the series of cyber safety and understanding the 6 key topics we believe every teacher and educator should know how to teach so our children can be independent online. At Cyberlite, we built a framework which discovered that we need 6 core topics to ensure that every 7 to 17-year-old grows, understands the risks, safety, solutions, and how to move forward as they navigate the cyber world as they grow up. There is a lot of risk out there, as we have discovered, and making sure that our children have a digital footprint or roadmap on how to navigate their way through is integral. And so this is the last, but often the most important that we see with children at school and students at school who are dealing with as a cyber risk on a day-to-day issue. So cyberbullying and abuse is something that we need to be incredibly aware of, how we talk about it, how we define it, and what we do about it as well. Unfortunately, as educators, as parents, we often are the last to know or are unaware of what's happening in terms of cyberbullying and abuse due to the fact that we can't just enter our children's worlds. We can't step in, walk around, have a look what's going on and have an idea about it. The anonymity also means that those who we believe may be perpetrators may not be perpetrators at all. It could be anybody and it could be coming from anywhere, because the idea behind cyberbullying is often that they hide behind the technology. So we are often disempowered in being able to support children through a cyberbullying incident or navigate a perpetrator away from the behaviors that are causing so much anxiety and stress to another. So we have to really, as we dive into cyberbullying and abuse, define what it is and why our children are so worried about it and ask us to talk about it consistently. Unfortunately, 50% of children today have either seen cyberbullying, been part of a cyberbullying experience, or have been traumatized by something they've seen online. This is actually a staggering statistic, which often you can see in some sort of stats, plays up to 70%. Gender also has a massive glance on it. Women and female students are being bullied way more than our male students in some atmospheres, and our men and our boys are often not talking about what they're facing online. Where we start is really defining some of the key skills or terms that you should know when you're teaching cyberbullying. First of all, which I will dive into in a minute, is what does actually cyberbullying define? When we walk into classrooms, we find often students can be find it very complex to navigate through what is a bullying incident, what is just an incident that may die down after a day. They find it hard to see. They also see it hard to work out when they should step in or if they should step in at all. One of the other key terms that we see with younger students where they see cyberbullying is exclusion. When something is happening online and they're excluded, be it from the fact their parents won't load them online or be it from the fact they've been excluded by their peers. An example of what one would be if your class has a WhatsApp group and they've actually put somebody or removed somebody out of it and then continue to have a conversation about that person in there. The power of that means that individual is being cyberbullied and is in a very vulnerable situation. And the other thing we must teach when we're talking about cyberbullying is our students' roles in being upstanders. By the fact that I've just defined that we find it very difficult to come into the space and support our children, we need our children to support each other and understand that the community outside in the offline world has its rules. We have our morals and our values. We do not go around abusing everybody for what they're wearing, what they said. We have a social structure. We need our students to identify the communities they're in online and endorse the same type of social structure that ensures that community is not toxic or vulnerable or at risk in any way. And it's up for our students to realize they have a role to play in that, and they need to be upstanders when they're playing that role. So let's start with that first point. What is cyberbullying and how do you deal with it in a classroom? There are 3 ways that we break this down. This is digital drama. This is when something happens in the classroom, somebody didn't like someone's skirt, somebody said something to someone, and after school, people with phones will message each other and say, did you see this happening? Did you see what Susie said? And actually, by the end of the day, it dies down. It's a piece of drama that's played itself out in the digital world. It's a one-off, as it would be in the playground. Children have sorted it out. Students have sorted it out for themselves. And then you can move on from that experience. As a teacher, if a piece of digital drama comes your way, helping the student come to a resolution to see that it's an incident that should not have played out online, that they need to communicate in the real world, is a way forward. And as cyberbullying is when an incident happens over and over again, when a perpetrator is affecting a victim, either as a community, they're going after one person, or an individual is going after one person, and that person is feeling very vulnerable in their online space. That is how we would term cyberbullying. And then we have hate speech, when somebody or a lot of people are onboarding and creating hate against a community, against a thought process, and it becomes very, very toxic and goes completely out of hand. If you ask students, they will say often that most of what they see happen is in the digital drama space, and then they see the escalation happening. Now, what can children do if they are cyberbullied, or they feel that there has been an incidence of cyberbullying within their community? The first thing they need to do is take a screenshot. It's very hard sometimes for students to explain what's happened. It sometimes gets taken out of context. We need them to give us the evidence, as they say at their age, the receipts, and then we can really help them and navigate through the experience. What I found is a lot of students do not report cyberbullying because what they've done, first of all, is try to defend themselves. They've said something back, something that as an adult we'd find particularly bad as well, but then it hasn't helped. What we need to understand through these screenshots is, if they have stepped wrong, that is something that we need to also look at as a secondary, but to first show that we are supportive and upstanders of what they were trying to do in the first place, and then move on to how could they have dealt with it in a better place, but be thankful that they have come and reached out to an adult. So the upstander or the person or victim can also come and talk to adults. We need them to be aware that we understand cyberbullying is something that has a real effect on their mental health, on their physical health as well. And really to understand, and I've heard so many people say, well, they could just switch off. Why don't you just get off the device? It's very hard to get out of an environment that is sort of put on you by society pressure. If you come off the device and you're not there, the cyberbullying can continue, but you just can't see it. So you're always anxious when you're offline as well, because you're like, what if things are happening or escalating or going viral without my voice being part of that? So that's not always a solution, to take them off. The point would be to tell them you can secure your cyberspace and you can block anybody you would like to. And blocking a user is one of the most important tools that a student will have to make their environment safe again. They should be allowed to stay online in a safe environment. So one of the key points is to ensure that we have an upstander culture within the conversation of cyberbullying. The community, and when you see something, give other students the tools to speak out on the behalf of the victim. This is really important to do. One of the things we've seen schools do is to have a kindness day and hashtag that they can hashtag to get other people to come and support. So the tools that aren't out there are not just like a post that's mean. There are other tools that they have that they can support each other. Really sit down, have a conversation with the students, say, what would you do in this situation? It's an integrally important conversation. The one thing I will leave you with, as much as we've spoken about the victim, often the perpetrator has got themselves into a situation they may not have seen coming, or they may not have wanted to escalate to that level. The problem with the child's brain is often that we are impulsive, we want to react straight away to something we've read, or we reread something over and over again, and then our anguish comes out. So when we deal with perpetrators of cyberbullying as well, we need to really understand where they're coming from and really guide them into good digital etiquette, what can be said and how it should be said online, and really get them to really reflect on what they can do to make their cyberspace a more positive space as well. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and speak soon. Bye-bye.